Hey there, everybody. This is Jenny Clark with Solvability. It's Freedom Friday again, the Friday before Thanksgiving. We were all talking about what we are doing or not doing for Thanksgiving this time around. So we've got a special guest today. It is Carmine Denisco, and he has basically got a place where you bring in people that invent stuff and fiddle with things and things like that, and you show them how to make it happen, right, Carmine? So I'm just going to let you take it away from here and tell us a little bit about how you got into this business, how it works, and any advice for people that are in federal contracting. So go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. And I appreciate you bringing me on today. This is pretty awesome stuff. And I love, talking just before we started the show. It's pretty cool to talk about different things and what people like doing, different games and different things during the day. But I got into actually creating people's ideas or inventions or products years and years ago. I like to always take things apart when I was younger. And I could never really get them back together, but I definitely like taking them apart and seeing how they worked and how things operated. And then as I got older, I thought about it being maybe a business if I could, get one of my ideas or inventions out on the market. And that's where I found out that it wasn't that easy. It's very tough to create a product, bring it to market, something that no one has ever seen before or done before, or do something better than what might be out there, or give somebody a reason to switch from what they're doing and what they're used to switch to what I have that's new, that I'm claiming is better. So it was a big challenge. And over the years, I've had some real big crashes of products, and I have some products that have done very well. But then, as you progress, people start asking you to do it for them. And that's kind of how I got into this business, by just getting out there, working with people and helping them, and then turning it into a business is being able to do what I love to do every day. It's really a blessing. So that's kind of how I got into it, just slowly, progressively, and learning from my mistakes.
Well, so let me ask you a question. What did you break as a kid that you could not put back together?
That's a good question. I mean, everything. I remember taking a television apart, and, back then televisions were very expensive, and I couldn't get it back together. Of course, got in trouble. Bicycles, and even, I had a car. I bought an old junk car when I was like 12 just to try to get it working, and just everything I could do. I remember mini bikes, and, this is when kids worked outside and did things, back in the day. But now I'd have to, I guess, if I was younger now, I'd be taking a cell phone apart and trying to fix it.
Well, I don't think you should do that one.
No.
You just sound like a guy that's been a tinkerer for a long time. And so people come into your space, and it sounded to me like you throw out all these ideas and they bring you back some other variations of those ideas. But what I always wonder with people is asking them to define what is the problem this solves, because I think that's a big part of it. You can't, it's one thing to build something, but it's got to have a purpose, right? How do you get over that?
Wow, so such a great question. It's one of the biggest questions that someone can ask themselves, that if I have an idea for a problem, how many people is that idea or that fix that I thought of affecting? So if the problem is not large enough, your idea or your fix may not be that big of a hit. It certainly might work for you or for a small group of people. You talk about the large fish in a small pond type thing. So your fix, so the problem that's out there, Jenny, the problem has to be on a mass scale if you really have an idea that you want to take to market. Some people can get into a niche thing, but it's very expensive to get into a niche type product. So if your idea is for a very large percent of the population, your market, your target market, then you might have something. But it's very important to do that first. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it's really funny because I'm always thinking about stuff that I got from an innovator, and this is a Pammy pocket.
I
I
know
don't
her.
know if you knew she's in Tampa Bay.
Yes.
And only nerd girls would have this problem of wanting to wear their thing around their neck. And I could put my credit cards in it, and lipstick, and I always have a bunch of pens in it too. So, this is nerd girl city. But like, what have you got floating around your office today you guys are tinkering with?
you know, um, We have a lot of products here that we're working on. Everything. I know Pammy, it's a great product, and she's been working that product. She belongs to the Tampa Bay Vendors Council, and she's really works hard, and she's done a great job on that product. But just to show, it still takes a lot to get it out there. So we work on products in all kinds. I wish I could show you right now some of the products, but I mean, we're working on everything from cups, different types of a cup, to, we're working on some bulletproof vests. So working on they're all, everything in between. So we working on baseball products and sports products, and just looking around, a lot of products for golf and baseball. And really, it's hard to call what comes into the office because it's really coming from the outside. But we also utilize what comes into the office to track what's happening in the world. Like, a few months ago, we were getting a lot of products into our office or calls about saving bananas. And I know it sounds weird, right? You're like, so we got 5 or 6 calls within the same week with people with inventions to keep bananas fresh. And I said, what the heck is going on? So we heard that somewhere down in South America, there was some kind of disease that was attacking bananas. So people all over the world were figuring out ways to save bananas and make them last longer. So just let you know that when you have an idea and you're working on it, I can almost guarantee someone else in the world is experiencing that same problem and they're working on it, but maybe in a different way.
Well, I think that's very interesting because when they talk about Einstein and different people like that, they talk about, well, who worked on it first and who really got credit and who really did everything. But what's different about what you do, Carmine, is that you've got people coming into your office with ideas. And how do they get them to be viable? But Russ Barnes asked a great question. When people come and talk to you, they're like, Carmine, I've got this great idea, but I want you to sign all this paperwork before I'll even tell you what the idea is. And you're like, what do you tell them?
So a non-disclosure agreement is a great way to start off a conversation with someone. And there's ways to approach a non-disclosure agreement. So first off, if you have a patent or a provisional patent or something, some kind of paperwork that you've filed, and we could talk about that later, you really don't need a non-disclosure agreement. You should get one anyway for your records. So a non-disclosure agreement is really only as good as the person you're talking to, the amount of money you would have to defend that non-disclosure agreement, but really, your trust in that company or the people that you're working with. So if you're going to work with a company, I would please, we have so much power at our fingertips. Search that company, look to see if there's any red flags. Very seldom, because of the internet, people don't really steal ideas as much as we think. It's always great to talk about, oh my God, somebody's going to steal your idea, because we always like to think like that. But very, very seldom an idea gets stolen because of the reputation type things that could happen online. But the non-disclosure agreement is a great way to start off a conversation. If you possible, please always get one signed by the company that you are going to disclose the information with, and make sure that whomever they are going to talk to. So if somebody comes to me with a non-disclosure with a product, and I'm going to help, and I'm going to work with them with one of my engineers who is external, I have to make sure that I have the proper documentation with that engineer also. So the non-disclosure agreement is a great way to start. It's a good information, but just remember that it's not the end all. You're not superly protected. So you always want to be cautious of who you work with.
Well, I think that's really good advice. The other thing I've been hearing about is people talking about they've got these great ideas, and then of course they need access to money in order to take them forward. And it's like, well, everybody needs that. So how do you identify what kind of investment they're going to have to take, or prepare them for really what it's going to take to get there?
Yeah. So taking an invention, as some of you guys know, or any business, taking that leap is going to cost money. There's no doubt about it. There's no way around it. But the trick is to prepare in the right sequence and only spend resources. Resources just aren't money. It's time, it's ideas, it's bringing in people or asking favors, it's making that contact, and of course, money. So those resources have to be expelled in the right sequence, in the right order. Because if you get out of sequence, you could expel all your time. You're in the garage working on your idea or your business for days at a time, and your wife and your family is missing you and they're mad. And then something happens and you go, oh my God, I got to do it all over again. There's going to be some pretty mad people. So the trick is to do it in the right sequence and expel or spend those funds at the right time. And that's kind of what we do here, is that we take somebody, we look at what they do, what they've done, and we drop them in the right order and we work with them. Now, yes, there are some times where you might have to go out and get investment money. The trick would be is if you're organized and you have the right documentation and it shows that you have a plan in place. Having that plan is so important. It's much easier to get that investment money.
Well, it's so important what you're talking about, because when I'm developing this innovation panel for GovCon Summit and have been talking to different people. And what the inventor is always telling me is, well, we've done this, and we've done this, and we've done this, but they want us to be at this readiness level, or they want it to be at this stage of product development. Some pieces of it are, and I think what they struggle with is, well, we can do X, but it depends on how do you apply that technology? Because sure, the government needs this, but who and how? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's one of those things, chicken before the egg, and how can I get that money? So you have to find people, and you have to, again, and I know this, you guys all do such a great job of preparing and doing this. You have to have a good plan in place. You have to show that you can deliver what you need. Get those people that will believe in not only your idea, but having those people keeps you excited. It keeps you wanting to move forward. And you could get those early seed funds in that can propel you to make the product, make the prototype, to get to that next step. And I totally agree. It's one of those things that all of us suffer from, because we can get that big investment if we can get to this point. So the trick is it's not easy. That ambition, that hard work will get us to that point, but it definitely does take time.
Well, and so there was something on LinkedIn the other day talking about inventors being so excited that they start to get some progress with who they think is an investor. And it turns out they've given a bunch of the information to this investor. And it turns out to be Chinese people that are stealing US technology and using it for evil purposes. Have you heard it?
I hear it all the time. Yes. It's terrible. And I don't mean to laugh about it, but guys, man, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is,
Well, what they're also saying is that because we don't have a very effective system for moving technology around, we're getting inventors that are being, kind of distracted by the lure of getting money. Yeah. And one of the things that we've talked about together is companies that have something that might have a defense application. And with that, we always talk about small business innovative research. We talk about other transaction authority and things like that. And I know you don't get into those areas, but when you talk about the steps that a small business should go through, there's some basic things they need to start off with.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. The thing about it is, in any business or in any proper way, I mean, you have to have a good plan in place. You have to have a sequence in place. You have to be able to talk the talk. And if you don't know something, which we don't know everything, you need to be able to reach out to people that can help, that can answer those tough questions, because we know a lot of times we only get one shot at that big payday, that big, job, that big advice, or whatever we're looking for, that investment money. So we really have to prepare the right way. And I do work with some of the federal contractors on this side. They always, I get a lot of calls they're looking for investors. They're looking to maybe get a prototype, or they're looking for proof of concept. And man, it's unbelievable the amount of paperwork that I have to sign to work on some of that stuff. But yeah, and they are prepared. A lot of the guys are utilizing podcasts like this and shows like this and information like your GovCon to really be able to get over that edge, because we need that edge to get that next step.
Well, you're so right about that. And there's so much talk in the federal market about innovation, and it's spread all over the place. And I always say, how many times do you think those guys should show up for pizza and beer to talk about a potential opportunity? Because we've got to find ways to get them something they can work on. And I have seen a lot of companies grow using the Small Business of Innovative Research, but I also had somebody call me the other day, and he said, Jenny, we were so close this time. I talked to the program manager. He told me to submit it. I put in the 5 pages. They called me back. They called me back and said, you've got to put in a cover page. He put in the cover page. When he did that, he went over the page limit and he got completely thrown out. Have you heard these things?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, it's so frustrating when you're checking every box and then that box disappears. It's just very frustrating. We only have so many resources. We only have so much time, and to be able to have to fit into that little square sometimes it's just not fair.
Yeah. Well,
Innovation
and
doesn't fit
another
in the
guy,
square. It doesn't. It's
yeah.
not fair to do.
So I got another call, and it was on a Friday afternoon or something like that. And the guy said, I just submitted my small business and innovative research. They approved it, but I can't show them how I got this little math thing. And I got on the phone with him, and I said, well, I'll solve that for $500. I don't know what it's going to be, but I figure anything that could be a paperwork thing with the government, it's not going to be worth a lot of money to him unless I can solve it. And he doesn't have a lot of money to spend. So what I did is I said, well, give me access. And I went online with him and I said, oh, it's this checkbox right here. It's this checkbox right here that does this little math thing. And now we can submit it. And I feel like, there's a lot of us that really care about getting results for these small businesses, because if they're not inventing stuff, I could be unsafe. This could be something that's really important to national security. It could be like what you were talking about with drones. I don't want those inventors and innovators to be held up by ridiculous rules and paperwork, but that is our society.
Yeah.
But tell me a success story, Carmen. I want to hear somebody that you just came in and is like, wow, did we really just do that?
Yeah, we have, and again, it's very few and far between. Like, it's hard to really predict those big successes because they do take time. And I could tell you, people ask me all the time, is this going to be a big hit or not? And a lot of times I tell them, I would have kicked the chia pet out of my office. I mean, I would have been like, get this thing out of here, so you really never know. So a lot of the projects and products that we have had big success with are ones that are very seldom, in the spotlight. They're just mundane products like a cool spatula or a thing that hooks onto your sink that holds a sponge, or, things like that. Like, we've had products on HSN and QVC. We've had them on different television shows, on the Today Show and things like that. I have one that we just finished up for a client. It's going to be on Shark Tank in January or February. So, a lot of the products that are out there, they're not like the Snuggie that we've all heard about, but they're making money for the inventor, which is just so cool. I love being out there. I did a cheerleading backpack. Now you're like, man, a cheerleading backpack, come on. But this backpack has mirrors in it and pockets and places to hold their phone, and it recharges. So for a cheerleader, so we don't realize how big of a market cheerleading is. There's millions of, these cheerleaders that run around. So this backpack sold hundreds of thousands of units, and when I'm walking through an airport and I see somebody wearing one, I'm like, oh my God, I made that product, and then I go over and of course accost them and ask them all these questions, and they think I'm wacky. But, so there's a lot of cool invention stories out there. And, I mean, I just had a woman, and I don't mean to take up too much time. I just had a woman, Marcy, who she sells products on the TV channel or the TV channel, or I forget, it's Canada's HSN and
Okay.
the shopping channel. And her grandfather was the one who built the timer for bombs for the U.S. military. Like, he had a patent for that timer because I guess when you dropped a bomb, sometimes it would explode like right out of the plane. So he put this timer and he made it in his garage, which I thought was just amazing that we still have people that are making such a difference, in the world, because you think every idea has been thought of. And then these people are just unbelievable to me, to some of these ideas that come in. And I'm just like, wow, it's just so much fun. And I get to have this kind of fun every day. And I thank myself, myself and the people that I work with every day, our team members, for being able to do it. It's just awesome.
Well, the one that I always think about is we talk about one of the biggest issues in the military is power management and energy generation and energy storage. And what I think about is, as mad as I get when I can't find my cell phone charger, imagine if my life depended on it. And that's why it's so important to find a way for innovation to happen. And that's part of the reason why every year at GovCon Summit, we've done an innovation track, and we're doing it again. I've got some brilliant people already involved that are talking about the whole innovation strategy for the Defense Department and how to move it along. But I like your idea of Shark Tank. And what I'm wondering is, I've talked to several people at GovCon Summit doing some kind of a Shark Tank event, because you want to make things that are engaging and super, super fun. So if I gave you a magic wand and said, hey, Carmine, come on to GovCon Summit, I want you to run our Shark Tank, what would you do? How would you run it?
Well, luckily, I'm a board member of United Inventors Association. So we have, tens of thousands of people I could reach out to. And really, if we wanted it to be local or a national event, especially if we're doing virtually, we could really get a whole bunch of people we would put parameters on it, obviously, or we would get thousands of, inventors. But, we'd have to have parameters. And if they had a prototype or a project or a retail ready or whatever we thought of, we could do just a government type invention. And then we would get submissions. We'd look through them. We could put a team together and look through the submissions, and then pick several that would actually, pitch their products live on the during the GovCon. So we can definitely do that. We've done it before. It's a lot of fun to bring people on, and you just feel their excitement and how proud they are of their ideas.
Well, I really like what you're talking about, because I had a conversation with Kito Mosa, who was at GovCon last year, and he said, Jenny, there's a lot going on with larger companies looking for partnerships, and there's money out there. They're desperately looking to work with these small companies, but it's very hard for a technical guy to do a pitch.
Yeah.
And have you seen it? Because I know, like, when I get started talking about stuff, I'm like this. I'm like, if you watch the Peanuts things and Charles and what's Charlie Brown, there's always somebody, me.
Yeah.
But how do you coach these inventors to talk about their product in a concise way? What's the trick with that?
My God, the trick is get somebody to pitch it for you. No. So yeah, 1,000,000%. We all get excited about it. And it is very hard for us, even myself as an inventor, to try to compress and really talk about our idea in a concise manner. The one thing that I will stress with anyone, whether putting on paper or talking about it, is talk about the benefits of your product. Okay. When we're engineers or we like building things, we're always talking about how it's made and the arm spins around and all these things. And the person that buys it, it doesn't matter that. They just want to know how it's going to benefit them or their family or the military or however it's going to work. So always try to talk about the benefits. And you really will help you kind of tone down your thing. And if you can't do it and you are too excited, get somebody to help you pitch it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with not knowing something or bringing somebody in. I have a coach, a business coach. Everyone has, get a business coach, get somebody that will help you. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I think that's a really good point, that everybody's looking for somebody to help them get to the next level and get to the next stage. And Carmine, you've just given us some great things. What's really funny, though, when you were talking about that and talking about benefits, one of the things about selling innovation in the market is you have to tell them the benefits. But with federal contracting, you've got to back into the requirements parking slot. If they don't understand the problem or it's not in the budget, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could say it could save 100 lives tomorrow. They don't have it. They don't operate that way. I'd love to bring in my friend Emily Harmon for a minute and let you just kind of explain a little bit about that based on your background. Emily, do you mind?
Oh, no. Thanks, Jenny. Great presentation, Carmine. Yeah, that is challenging. Something that inventors need to understand, because a lot of times they come to the government and say, government employees say, you've got to buy this. It's awesome. But they don't really understand that it may be awesome, but we don't have a requirement for it. And so by not having a requirement for it, we don't have a budget for it. And then, so you've got to listen to that. And then the other thing is your potential government customer might say, yeah, but does it do this? I need it to do that. And somebody might say, no, it doesn't do that. It doesn't, you might think to yourself, you're all defensive. It's my invention. Mm-hmm. It doesn't do that. And it doesn't need to. You're an idiot. When really, that piece of advice is gold, because they're telling you what they need. Yes. But some people don't listen to that. And I've just been in a situation where I was mentoring a inventor. And that's the issue that that inventor had. And it didn't end well, but they couldn't listen. Their product was the best and the greatest, and nobody else could beat it. But he's the only one that believed that, and he wasn't able to convince other people of that. So you got to be able to listen.
Well, that's a really good point. And Russ, I pulled you in on this one too, because I know you talk to a lot of veteran entrepreneurs about what their ideas are and where they want to take them. So I was just thinking about what would be your advice to them?
So the big thing for me is that when I talk to business owners who want to do business with the government, I do emphasize that before you can do business with the government, you have to be able to do business. Because some of them assume that I'm just going to bid on a government contract, and then when I win that government contract, I'll figure out how to deliver on that contract, and that's how I'll get my business started. When, as Emily stated, the government has problems that they need to be solved. They describe and define those problems in the form of a requirement. Sometimes they go out to the community in advance and say, we have this problem. How do you think we should solve it? And then they get that information back, and then that's what they put into the requirements that then they put out to the community. And so if you're going to do business with the government, if you have a great idea, then the process is, well, let me go see if I can't talk to someone in the government to see if they would put out a requirement for this thing that I have created, because people in the field are asking for it. And so there's this whole process that you need to understand. And when you have a handle on how that works, then you can better position yourself for success. But if it's all about the money, I'm going to get into government contracting because it's going to give me stability in my revenue stream, then you're going to have a hard road.
Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up. And Carmine, I really appreciate your being on with us today. We learned a lot from what you were talking about as far as how to go from an idea to the next concept and what to take into account on it. So everybody, thanks so much for being on today. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I look forward to another Freedom Friday. And by the way, we are hosting GovCon Summit. I'm organizing people right now into something called Alliance Group. So if you could go to solvability.com and GovCon Summit, I would love to have you check.